Hey everybody, it's Alex here from iDESIGN Solutions. I'm here to talk about the VRC autonomous period. Now, the way autonomous works in VRC can be pretty intimidating, coding especially if you're just getting into VEX, just getting into robotics and working your way around robot design. The autonomous period can seem pretty confusing. So I made this video to hopefully explain a little bit about how it works, how you can set up your robot to work with it, and how you can test it out yourself. So to start off the bat, how does the VEX autonomous period work? Well, let's find out.
Each match begins with a 15-second autonomous period where robots score on their side of the field without help from their drivers. The alliance that scores more points in the autonomous period is awarded with 6 bonus points, added to the final score at the end of the match. The alliance who wins this autonomous bonus is also awarded 2 purple cubes, which may be introduced at any time during the driver control period.
The 1 minute, 45-second driver control period begins once the autonomous bonus winner has been determined. At the end of the driver control period...
So obviously 6 points and 2 extra cubes sounds really exciting, but how do we get there? How do we get our robot to work with autonomous, and how does VEX make sure that all of the robots that show up to the field start and stop at the same time with their driver and autonomous periods? And the answer is the field controller. Now the field controller attaches to both sides of the field on a tower, and all robots can connect directly into it with an Ethernet cable. And this sends the signals to the robot's controller that disables them and enables them for each period and makes sure that each robot starts and stops when the timer goes off. And we can actually simulate this in a classroom or just outside a competition by using the VEXNet competition switch. It's got 4 Ethernet ports on it, an enable and disable switch for autonomous and driver control, and it simulates exactly what's going to happen at a competition. So it's a really great way to practice and a really great way to work with it. So how do we set this up? Let's take a look at the V5 blocks and figure out how we're going to program it.
So this is what you see when you start up VEX Code V5 blocks. It's just a blank project with a when started block. And the first step with creating any program is going to be adding your robot's devices and configuring them. So if we click on the top right icon, the device icon, we add a device, and the very first one we want to start with is to start drivetrain. Most robots have them. You just want to set the left and right motor ports. I'm not using a gyro, so we're just going to click that. You can mess with the settings, but this is a standard drivetrain, nice and easy. We're also going to add a motor for the arm on port 8. We can name the motor, we can name the different directions, we can change gear settings as well. And I just like to name the different directions so that it's a little more clear when I'm going back to call them. We're going to add another motor, just one for the claw, on port 3. Once again, just changing the name of the motor and directions. That way it becomes a little more clear which one we're calling. And now that my robot devices are all set up and configured, the last one I need to add is just a controller. So adding a controller as a device allows you to map out the driver control. Clicking the joysticks changes the different behaviors. Personally, I'm a big fan of tank control, so I'm going to leave it on this. And now clicking through the buttons allows you to cycle through the different motors you have assigned, and you can also change the directions. You can choose any buttons, but I do like the front 4 buttons that come as a default. Alright, so now that our driver control is established, we can bring out the 2 events we need to make the competition template happen. And those are when autonomous and when driver control. And they are located in the Events tab on the left side. So now that we have our when autonomous and when driver control events, the competition switch, when it enables either period, is actually going to send the signal for the program to start whatever blocks are attached to each event. So when you start autonomous, it's going to start this when autonomous code chain, and the same thing with the drive control. But let's just add a simple autonomous routine so we can test them both out. We're just going to drive forward for 12 inches and then turn right for 90 degrees. And now and since we don't have any drive control commands, it's actually going to just default to our controller setup, so the drive control is already taken care of for us. And now we can download and test with the competition switch. Go ahead and plug into any Ethernet port on the switch and the center port on the controller. Now the robot should not be moving when it's disabled. It should act out the simple autonomous routine when the autonomous is enabled, and then you should be allowed to have full driver control. And then you should be allowed to have full driver control when driver control is enabled. So now that we know that our basic Clawbot program works, we can go ahead and expand on this to create a little more initialization settings under the when started block and really flesh out our autonomous routine to do a lot more steps. We can do things like putting cubes in the scoring zone or stacking them on top of each other. And you can experiment with what the best way is to get the most points in those 15 seconds. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope it helped you learn a little bit more about the autonomous period with V5. If you ever have any questions or looking for more help, iDESIGN Solutions does offer free V5 webinars as well as teacher training at our location and at your location. And you can find more details about this on our website. Thanks.